Hi, I'm Rick Dior, and I'm here today to talk about touch on the drum set. So touch is how you hit the drums. So there's lots of ways to hit the drums. You can hit the drums with your instinct, which is grab, hit, eat, or build, whatever, our instinct is to grab something like that. If you ever give a stick to a child who's never held one, and I did this with my kids when they were little, just to prove my theory, and they never went like this, they never used their fingers, they always grabbed the stick like a club. So that's in there, that's our instinct, we're born with that. And, a lot of drummers and even some professional players play like that, where they grab the stick like this. They don't use a lot of fingers, they're using a lot of arm. Now that's fine if you want to play like that, but you won't be able to play all styles. You won't be able to play at different dynamic levels. And most importantly, you won't necessarily get a good sound out of the drums. And that's what we're talking about today, is sound quality, especially if you do a lot of recording or you play a lot of quiet gigs like I do in big halls, but you've got to play soft. Touch is the most important thing. So I was always taught not to use my wrist like this, but to let the stick drop. And that was the stroke. So that basic stroke of dropping doesn't create force. And force is what creates distortion. On an instrument as loud as the drums, you don't need to work hard to play loud on the drums. They're loud, no matter what. You just drop the stick on a snare, it's going to be louder than a flute or an oboe, and people are going to do this no matter what. Sometimes people in the orchestra just look at the drums and they do this, even if I'm not playing. So they're recognized with noise and loudness, but they don't have to be that way. Okay, so there's an art to playing quietly, and you'll get a lot of gigs too if you can play quietly. A lot more gigs than you get if you have two dynamic levels, which most drummers have. It's just loud and then louder. Those are their dynamic levels. But you really need to be able to play very, very quietly. I consider that moderately quiet, but if I was going to play that loud, it would sound like this. So you hear the difference here. Now, if you play really, really quiet, that's one of the hardest things to do as a drummer, is to play really fast and really quiet. Fortunately, I learned to do that. I think a long time ago I did a video on playing fast, and I talked about that, how I couldn't do it, and it frustrated me when I was a kid, and I worked and worked and worked and worked. And luckily, I learned the right way, which is you drop the stick, and then you use your fingers to propel it. So you see that motion. It's not this, like I see some people doing, and it's definitely not this. Okay? The wrist is a small part of what you do, especially as a drummer who plays lots of dynamics. That full wrist stroke is deadly. You don't want to do that, okay? Again, if you want to be able to play all styles, it shouldn't be happening. It's basically movement is what you want. So let's talk about that and let's analyze it. So when I'm doing my stroke, I start like this, okay? We're pivoting, just so you know. So I don't normally play like that. That's unnatural for me. I'll play knuckle up to the ceiling, and then when I go over here, I'll just bend my head. Now I'm not doing that. I'm not upside down. Okay, like that. And I'm also gravitating between these two positions, here and here. And I'm moving in a circular motion. So that motion is, and what happens is that circular motion offsets the force, so it's not all in one area like this. If you do all those notes in one area, the cymbal is going to build up, especially if you're working with a hammered cymbal. I play a lot of old Ks, but I'm up here in my other studio today, and I just have, not my best cymbals up here, but I have this Meinl cymbal. It's fine, it's 22. I have a Dream cymbal here and an all-day Crash here. So these aren't old Ks, but again, this is a hammered cymbal, and it reacts like that. It'll fight back. All right, so you have to kind of ride the wave. So don't stay in one area on the cymbal when you're doing that motion. The other thing we need to talk about is the drop. So you're just dropping the stick. And that's what you can practice, just dropping the stick. So they fight back. So more than a cymbal even, it's like a timpani. A timpani's so big, when you hit it, you have to use a different kind of stroke than you use on a drum because the head is always in motion. A snare drum does not fight back nearly as much. So in a way, it's easier to play on a snare drum, but a tom, especially a floor tom, try to play doubles, it'll fight you back. So it's important, okay, to get into the motion of that. I'll play matched. But I'm not doing this. Hopefully no one will take that, make their own video of me playing it. But that is an aggressive kind of, instinctual pounding on the instrument, which you don't want to do. Everything's wrong with that, right? The shoulders, the tight arms, the stress up here. You ever wonder why, maybe if your neck hurts and you're playing the drums, that shouldn't be happening. That means there's tension, all right? There shouldn't be any tension. So the right way to do it is this. So I'm letting it flow. I'm using my wrist, but I'm not using a tight wrist. I'm not coming up high. The stick is bouncing, and I'm using my fingers. So a lot of times on this channel, I talk about ratios. In my main stroke, the ratio is, I would say, 25% wrist and 75% fingers, and hardly any arm at all. There is some lift, but I'm throwing the stick. So you see there, I'm playing very, very loud. I probably distorted the meters or the recording here, but I am not pounding. I'm not, digging into the drums, which makes them sound bad. So you can play incredibly loud but relaxed and have it sound great. I used to love going to watch Omar Hakim in the 80s. He was in New York, and I'd see him play, and he had big, tall guy, long arms, but just a beautiful stroke. That kind of almost Muller-like stroke that's relaxed. It's a beautiful thing to see and hear. Will Kennedy is another one who did a lot of these kind of fusion jazz drummers. If they play like that, it's a beautiful thing. The sound is great. Play with tons of chops, okay? So these are the things that you need to remember when you hit the drum. Now, ways to practice that. So what I tell my students is to do simple things like rolls. You can get a little ostinato going and do some 5-stroke rolls. because rolls put stress on your wrists, right? If you want to do a roll with your wrist, you're tightening up. A lot of people tighten up. The other thing people do is they can get too loose where they're going sticks all over the place. You got to find that happy medium. So one thing I like to think about is the two-wall analogy. So I have this other camera here. We'll try it looking at it this way. So this is one wall. This is the other wall. And the stick is bouncing between the walls. When the walls are too wide, you lose control of the stick. It's like if you put a ball between two walls and they kept closing, the ball would bounce faster. And that's what we're doing. We're regulating where that stick is going. And that's part of your stroke. So as soon as you hit the drum, you're releasing that. So when you do a roll, now the trick is when you're playing on all these different surfaces and you want that roll to be clean, you've got to tighten up that wall. So each time the wall is getting closer and closer, the bigger the drum gets. So. And you'll find the floor tom is the hardest one because once again, it's going to fight back on you for sure. All right, so just try to negotiate. And the rolls work really good. You could do nines. And go from drum to get the feeling of regulating that. And that's a big part of touch, is regulating the way that you're using your fingers. But the simple kind of rock grooves like this, it's certainly possible to play all that stuff wrong, tight, okay? But if you want to play loose, I recently watched that Becoming Led Zeppelin video. It was great, right? There was so much great footage of John Bonham that I'd never seen before. I thought I saw everything, but I hadn't, playing live and, doing his whole moving around thing. But John Bonham played really loose. If you watch him, he never played like that. He was incredibly loose, and that's probably why he had such an incredible pocket, deep pocket. And even though he played loud as hell, his sound was great. He had a great sound and incredibly powerful. John Bonham, to me, had the original relaxed groove rock feel going, where it was like. And incredibly loud, but relaxed, all right? So you can move around as much as you want. A lot of that is show, right? But your hands, look at the hands and what they're doing. Now, the good thing about this, your touch and the way you play, it gives you longevity. I mean, I'm in my 60s, and I have no fall off at all. I think I play better than I've ever played. So I've been playing, since I was like 8 years old. So, do the math, a long time. And I feel great. I'm getting old, so, I don't always feel great, but my body feels good when I'm playing. That's what's important. And that's what this is going to give you. So touch is a huge part of playing the instrument correctly. So once again, for dynamics, for speed, and for sound, the most important thing. Lastly, I want to talk about some exercises that you can do besides the rolls that will help with your touch. So one thing I like to do is just triplets where I'm going right, left, left, right, left, left, right, left, left, or stickings like that. So. So what I'm doing there is I'm going right, left, left, right, left, left, or right, right, left, right, right, left. Those are the two stickings. So those stickings are very good for bouncing. You got one note and then two notes. That's bounce. That's a great exercise for touch. So if we do that quicker with a little ostinato again. Get a little bit of Buddy Rich stuff in there, right? That fast stuff, but you see I'm completely relaxed because all I'm doing is bouncing. I'm not tightening up. As soon as you tighten up, it's the kiss of death and it's over. So I hope you got something out of this video, and we'll see you next time with the next chapter of my drumming life.